Is this a great game or what? With the Hall of Famer Tim Kurkjian. I'm his son, Jeff Kurkjian. And Dad, you just got back to your house after a great All-Star week in Atlanta. Welcome home.
It was great, Jeff. It was a great home run derby. It was a tremendous All-Star game just because of the unique way that it finished. It was just a marvelous week in hot Atlanta, and I mean that quite literally because it was steaming hot. But the games were great. The camaraderie was great. Baseball was the big winner this week for sure.
And I was watching all your great coverage on ESPN, whether it was SportsCenter, Baseball Tonight. You did an incredible job. And I popped on the TV and boom, there's Pop-Pop with our guest from yesterday's episode, Chipper Jones, just hanging out on Baseball Tonight. That was cool.
Right. Chipper was all over the place, Jeff. You see, when you're like a local star, like Chipper is, I think he's one of the four greatest Braves of all time. You're like the host for the All-Star game when you're the Hall of Famer and everything goes through you. So he told me that he was in a restaurant like on Monday night, and Derek Jeter came by and he said, he got me in a headlock. And he said, are you exhausted yet? Because Derek Jeter knows what it's like to kind of be the host of something like this. So I asked Derek Jeter, did you get Chipper in an actual headlock? And he goes, he's exaggerating that. I didn't hurt him, I promise. So great little back and forth between Chipper Jones and Derek Jeter, and Chipper was all over the place. And Jeff, just like he was so insightful and hilarious on our podcast, he was the same on Baseball Tonight. He's just got a great way about him as he explained the All-Star game and what it meant to him, but especially to the Braves and to the city of Atlanta.
So if you are listening right now and you didn't have a chance to listen to Chipper Jones's interview, it's just the previous episode here on the feed. So just cycle back one, either after this episode or do it right now, and make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, rate the show, all that good stuff to help continue us growing. Is this a great game or what with you? So Dad, I want to hear all the All-Star game stuff. I mean, this is a unique episode because usually we have games to talk about, but the only game that has been played since we last did a podcast was the All-Star game. So do you want to start with the Derby or do you want to start with the All-Star game? How do you want to go about this?
We're going to start with the All-Star game because the All-Star game was a Kurkjian. There are no Kurkjians this week because the All-Star game was a Kurkjian, Jeff. It was so interesting. And we never even considered there was going to be a tie game in the All-Star game because the National League had a 6-0 lead and there was zero chance the American League was coming back. But to their credit, and I tell you all the time, Jeff, teams, they really don't care who wins the All-Star game. They just want to have a great time, try their hardest, and if they win, great. But the American League really fought their way back. And I was the dugout reporter on radio. So I was in the American League dugout for all of this. And it was really cool to see how the momentum started to gain. Down 6-0. They come back to tie the game 6-6 after 9, which of course led us to the first, the first home run derby, the first swing off to win an All-Star game ever. So the people who either weren't watching or don't know the rules, you get to pick 3 guys per team, 3 American Leaguers, 3 National Leaguers. Now, part of the rules, and the rules were a little sketchy, is that you had to take a guy who had played in the second half of the game, okay, as opposed to getting a guy who maybe played 2 innings, has been sitting for 3 hours, and now you ask him to come out and get 3 pitches and hit 3 homers. Right. So in other words, Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, they came out of the game early and they were gone by the time the home run derby came. So, when everyone arrived, Jeff, this is important to note, they were all told on Monday, look, we might have a home run derby after the All-Star game if there's a tie? Who is willing to do it? So Kyle Schwarber, who ended up, of course, being the hero, they asked him and he said, well, of course I'll do it. Well, as it turned out, they really needed him. Every player was allowed to say, no, I'm not interested in participating. I'm not sure that was the case, but like big dumper Cal Raleigh was never even considered for this because he came out of the game after in the fifth inning. So you had to choose from there on out, and that's what made it so interesting.
It was a fascinating finish to an all-star game. And, I've seen on Twitter, I've seen on social media mixed reactions, Dad. People saying, oh, you can't end a baseball game like that. What the heck? And other people saying the game doesn't matter anymore, so let's finish it in such a crazy way. Why not? And that's the boat I'm in. Listen, we'll never end another baseball game like that. So why not do it? Why not add a little spice? It took me back to Little League, Dad. I feel like that is something that you would do at the Cooperstown Dreams Park as a fun activity between games. That was fun.
Right.
That was legendary.
What made it interesting also, Jeff, is that the fans at the ballpark, and trust me, I was there, weren't sure what was going on when it's 6 after 9, and then they bring out the L screen and put it, right in front of the pitcher's mound. Like, what is going on here? But again, I was with the American League, so I'm standing right in the middle of these guys. The level of energy was remarkable as they started to get ready for this. And then when Brent Rooker, who hit a 3-run homer in the All-Star game, now he comes up as the first batter for the American League and hits 2 homers. Jeff, you should have seen those guys leaping up and down. It's like they were in junior high school and the fans were into it. So you're right. This is a meaningless game. It's an exhibition game. No one is suggesting we should start to do this for a regular season game that will count in the standings. But what a perfect way to end this in an all-star game. It was just great. So Kyle Schwarber comes up, and Kyle Schwarber is your boy, Jeff, because he is so built for something like this. So he comes up, and of course, you're allowed 3 swings. He hits 3 home runs on 3 swings and gives the National League a commanding lead. So he's the first player ever to hit 3 home runs in an all-star game, even though that doesn't really count. We know that. But he won the MVP for that performance because then Jonathan Aranda came up, and he's the last hitter for the American League. And if he doesn't hit at least 1 homer, it's over. And Pete Alonso, who was on his way to becoming the MVP of the All-Star game, didn't even get a chance to bat because Jonathan Aranda missed by about 5 feet, hitting a home run that would have tied it. I mean, would have got it in shooting range here and given Pete Alonso a chance to hit a home run. It was so good. But Jeff, this is the point. I'm watching this, and Aaron Boone looks at me and he goes, this is great. This is like wiffle ball in the backyard. Yep. I sat next to Brad Ausmus, former major league player, bench coach for the Yankees. He just looks at me and goes, this is so much fun. And when it was all over, I go to Corbin Carroll. I'm doing the show on the radio, so I'm interviewing guys on the radio. I say to Corbin Carroll of the Diamondbacks, I said, what was that? And he goes, that was madness. And that's exactly what it was. But Jeff, it was a really good madness. The fans loved it, but more important, the players loved it, and nobody got hurt. The bottom line is you were at the game in Milwaukee for the tie game, right? Do you remember what happened when they decided that was a tie game? What happened, Jeff?
It was chaos.
Right. People were what? They were booing.
They were so mad. And that's not the way an all-star game, even 23 years ago, needs to be finished. I mean, I have such a core memory of the fans. I was young, too, but we were up for the whole game, and it was not the way to end the midsummer clock. You know what I mean? It's just such a negative feeling.
Right. I felt sorry for Bud Selig that day, the commissioner. He just kind of shrugged his shoulders like, what can we do here? Well, they couldn't do anything for that game, but they could do something for this game. And as it turned out, it was absolutely tremendous. So look, I understand we should have had Judge and Ohtani and the 6 best home run hitters. I don't think so, Jeff. Brent Rooker, who was great in this home run derby, great in the All-Star game, and great in the second home run derby, has the third most home runs in the American League the last 3 years, behind big dumper Cal Raleigh and Aaron Judge. So don't tell me that he didn't belong in the home run derby to decide the All-Star game. I thought it was great. I thought the whole thing was great, and the level of energy and excitement and enthusiasm from the fans and the players absolutely sold it for me.
You know, Dad, I know you were obviously doing the game for radio. So on the television broadcast last night, a highlight for me had to be Clayton Kershaw mic'd up during the 2 batters he faced. And he was hysterical, Dad. He was taking us through his process. I kind of want to throw a slider. No, maybe I'll hit him with a fastball. Oop, that one's a little short. Uh-oh. And then, Dad, he threw a strike like right down the middle, and he goes, woo! Down the middle. Thank goodness he didn't swing.
But Jeff, it's wonderful we can mic up a pitcher. We're also miking up the best pitcher of this generation, right. One of the greatest pitchers of all time. And for him to be so playful in an All-Star game and entertain us so greatly, when who knows, this could be his last year. Who knows, this could be his last All-Star game. He was a legend pick for this, and the legend really came through because he faced 2 batters, including Cal Raleigh. How great is that? And he struck out the second batter that he faced, which was really, really cool. And it was absolutely tremendous. So, but the home run derby after the game really saved it, Jeff. So I interviewed Kyle Schwarber after the game. And I said, Kyle, look, I know you just played in the game, but how did you get ready to go up there and hit, swing at 3 straight pitches? And he said, well, Chapman broke my bat with a 102-mile-an-hour sinker. So he said, I had to go get a new bat because he broke it in the game. I had to go get a new bat, and I was ready. And when I asked Corbin Carroll, what about Kyle Schwarber just going up there, taking 3 swings and hitting 3 homers? And he looked at me and he goes, well, we're kind of used to Kyle Schwarber doing things like that. So nobody was surprised. If I could have picked anyone on both of those teams to go up there and do what Kyle Schwarber did, I would have picked Kyle Schwarber. I think he was perfect for that event.
Now Kyle Schwarber can add another home run in his cap because he is the only player, and I'm going to make sure I get this right. He's the only player to home run in the AL and the NL in the CS, DS, and wild card rounds, World Series, World Baseball Classic, Home Run Derby, and now swing off to end an All-Star game. So he has added another feather to his cap as one of the only players to do all of those things.
Yeah,
it was the only player to do all those things.
It was just priceless. We walked home from the game. We walked back to our hotel after the game, and it was marvelous just how different it was. And it has to be said one more time, Jeff, it's an exhibition game. We're allowed to do things like this. The alternative was a tie, and that is not a good alternative.
No, and I think what's fair is fair. I think we move on from there. Anybody who's upset about it, listen, it doesn't even matter at the end of the day. And if you want to throw an asterisk, sure, go ahead. But it was fun for all of us watching. I'll tell you that much.
And the only thing it was more fun than the home run derby, Jeff. But the home run derby was tremendous. So Cal Raleigh, who has been a folk hero in Seattle for 3 years now, at least. He is now a folk hero all across the country. He is a folk hero all the way through the major leagues. What he did with his family in the home run derby was incredible. As you know, Jeff, he advanced past Brent Rooker in one of the rounds by less than an inch in the combined home run totals. I mean, what are the chances of that happening? But that's how he advanced. And then he went on to win the home run derby, hitting right-handed and left-handed, which is just remarkable. But I don't want to be corny about this, Jeff. What stole the show for me is that his dad, Todd, was the pitcher. and his little brother, T, they call him, was the catcher. He just turned 15 years old.
Wow.
I interviewed his dad, like in between rounds, and he said, like, there could be no other great day for a dad than this, because I'm throwing to my son in the home run derby, and my other son is catching in the home run derby. He said it was just incredible. And Dad told me, and he threw really, really well, Jeff. He's, by the way, he's a coach. He coached at Western Carolina and Tennessee. He caught at Western Carolina. I tell people this all the time and no one listens, Jeff. One reason that Cal Raleigh is such a great all-around player with a baseball IQ off the charts is because of his father. He's a coach. He taught him how to play. He taught him how to conduct himself in every single way. So after it was all over, I said to Cal Raleigh, I said, like on the radio, how are you going to celebrate with your dad, the pitcher, and with your brother, the catcher? And he goes, well, my brother's only 15 years old. He can't drink. So we're going to go out and have a beer in his honor tonight, me and my dad. So I just thought the whole thing was priceless. And you must have also, as a viewer from home, with the energy involved, balls flying all over the place. But the personal story brought there by the Raleigh family just stole the night for me.
Yeah, and I think a big testament to how great the coverage of it was my wife, Emily, who we've established did not grow up like this huge, big baseball fan like I grew up, but she's grown to love the game. But she loved the coverage of the Home Run Derby because of finding out about his dad pitching and the kids that are out in the infield, or the kids catching the balls in the outfield, like how special that event is. And if you ever have a chance to go to an all-star game, don't pass up going to the Home Run Derby. That place was packed. The energy was magnetic. I'm sure it was hot as all get out. But, Dad, next year, not to get ahead of myself, it's in Philadelphia. And I told my wife, Emily, we are absolutely not missing at least the Home Run Derby, but most definitely the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game.
Right. And what you don't know, Jeff, is next year there is a media Home Run Derby, okay? And I will be throwing to you, okay? I'm the media member, so I'll be... This is a joke, Jeff. Don't worry. You don't have to go to the cage anytime soon.
Dad, I didn't ever hit a Little League home run in my... And I'm talking about a Little League home run where ball goes under the left fielder's feet, and then it gets thrown over the second baseman's head, and it gets thrown over the third baseman's head, and you get a home run. That's what we call a little... I didn't even have one of those in my career.
Right. Never mind, Jeff. You're a good athlete. Stop being so hard on yourself. As for the Home Run Derby, other than Cal Raleigh, O'Neill Cruz hit a ball 513 feet. So I interviewed him on the field, and he needed an interpreter, and I asked the interpreter, how is it possible for a human being to hit a ball 513 feet? And O'Neill Cruz said, well, God gave me that. And it's the truth, Jeff. He's 6'7", okay? I was also struck that James Wood is 6'7", and those guys competed in the Home Run Derby with Byron Buxton, who's one of the great athletes ever to play in the major leagues. Great high school basketball player, obviously an all-star baseball player. And in high school, he was a tremendous football player who once told the coach, I'm going to go to one end line of the football field, and I'm going to see how far I can throw a football. He wasn't a quarterback, and he threw a football 82 yards in the air, 82 yards. So my thinking is, Jeff, there were so many athletes at the All-Star game in baseball, which is kind of the idea now. Baseball is trying to show everyone, look how athletic our guys are. I've been telling you for years. It's unbelievable how big, strong, and fast these guys are. So in the Derby, we had James Wood, O'Neill Cruz, and Byron Buxton. I think we should have had a slam dunk contest after the Home Run Derby on Monday night. We could have gotten Aaron Judge, 6'7", in it, and we could have gotten Ellie De La Cruz, the amazing shortstop, 6'4", who can jump out of the building. Imagine that dunk contest between those five guys. Now, with all due respect to NBA players, Jeff, imagine if we had a home run hitting contest among guys in the dunk contest in the NBA. How do you think that would go? Maybe not so good?
No, it would not go. It would not go good at all. Dad, it would be embarrassing.
Well, maybe not. I'm just trying to make a point as I defend baseball players every single day of my life. They are amazing athletes. And I promise you, James Wood could dunk it with his eyes closed in any way that you want. And I'm sure O'Neal Cruz can. I'm sure Aaron Judge can. And I just think it would have been a really cool thing to show the athleticism of our baseball players.
Coming up next here on Is This a Great Game or What? We've got On This Date in Baseball History. We've also got From Ozzy to Oral, the best of all Tim, which in celebration of the All-Star game, I think you know what team we're going to pick. And then a Team Tim on the lines of the Homerun Derby. It's all coming up next. Welcome back to Is This a Great Game or What, Dad? On this date in baseball history, July the 17th.
Right. In 1941, Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak ended against the Cleveland Indians. Ken Keltner, the third baseman for the Indians, famously made two really good defensive plays to stop the streak right there. Jeff, I'm 68 years old. I hope I live a lot longer, but I will not be alive for anybody hitting in 56 straight games. That's how amazing it was what DiMaggio did. And I've told you this before, Jeff, during the 56-game hitting streak, he struck out 5 times. No times in the final 32 games of the hitting streak. Think about that for a second. Again, strikeout rate today, out of control. Pitching today, out of control. 0 strikeouts. Final 32 games.
Wow.
5 strikeouts in 56 games. Incredible.
It's unbelievable.
All right.
Unbelievable.
1974. I love this, Jeff. Bob Gibson struck out batter number 3,000 in his career to join Walter Johnson. Ever tell you I went to Walter Johnson High School?
Hey.
As the only 3,000 strikeout guys in history. And to get to 3,000, he struck out Cesar Geronimo, number 3,000. We joke about him. He was a great defensive center fielder. 6 years later, Jeff, Nolan Ryan struck out batter number 3,000. And you know who he struck out?
Don't say it.
Yes, Cesar Geronimo. How about that?
That's unbelievable. I mean, imagine that. They stopped the game for both of those, I would assume.
Right.
And there's Cesar Geronimo walking back to his dugout thinking, oh, crap, now they got to stop the whole game
right.
because of this.
Right. And I always quote Steve Russian, who was one of our great guests last year and again this year. He wrote it as one of his books. He said, I've always wondered what Cesar Geronimo yelled when he jumped out of an airplane.
Love that so much.
Okay, a couple other things on this date. In 1961, Ty Cobb died, one of the great players of all time. I'm in the vast minority here, Jeff, but I think if we gave him 6 months to figure out how to play Major League Baseball today, he would be a star in today's game. And his birthday comes the day after there was no tie in the All-Star game. But Ty Cobb died on this date in 1961. And Don Kessinger, Jeff, great shortstop for the Chicago Cubs, was born on this date in 1942. And I just love this, Jeff. His grandson is Gray Kessinger, who's played for the Astros several times up and down the minor leagues. And Gray Kessinger is a great defensive player. And he has a unique understanding of the game. And he told me he and his grandfather would drive all sorts of places together. And they had 2 rules when they drove: no cell phones, no radio. And all those 2 did, grandfather and grandson, was talk about baseball on their drives. And he said that Gray told me, like my grandfather would tell me, okay, here we go. 1st and 3rd, 8th inning, 1-run game.
I love that.
And a ball's hit to your left. You're playing shortstop, fast guy at first, faster runner at the plate. What are you doing with the ball? And these are the little things that made Gray Kessinger such a great defensive player, is he got this kind of tutelage from his grandfather, who was a terrific major league shortstop. Love that stuff.
Dad, that reminds me so much. We used to talk about things like that, but also people always ask me, what was it like growing up with you as a dad? And I remember so distinctly, we would go see like a Disney movie. This is really young. We'd go in the movie theaters. And at the end, you would ask me, what was that movie all about? And it was my goal to tell you what that movie was about in like less than 10 seconds, not rushing, but to be able to speak succinctly and quickly in order to tell a story. And I remember you saying, oh, well, you could tighten that one up, and I'd be like, so Simba's dad passed away. And it's all going to him, and he needs to learn to be a man. And, and I just remember those car rides so vividly because of the time we spent together.
Well, Jeff, I was just trying to prepare you for what you were going to do with your life, and that is be out in front and be able to get to the crux of the problem, the issue, whatever it is. So I remember you were like 5 and Kelly was maybe 8, and we saw October Sky. You know the story. And I said, a great movie, makes me cry out loud all the time. So I said, Jeff, what was that movie about? You and Kelly are in the car. And you said, well, it was about a rocket. What else? So Kelly gave it a great deal of thought. And finally I said, Kelly, what was that movie about? And she said, Dad, that was about a father and a son. And it was.
Oh.
It just makes me tear up even to think that Kelly could figure that out. And that was a great movie and a tearjerker on the highest order.
Ain't that the truth? All right, Dad, let's go from Ozzy to Oral. You're going to give us the best player to wear each number in the history of Major League Baseball. And Dad, I'll tell you right now on social media, you cause quite a stir.
What?
But you always say this is your list, not the list, right? And I'm just saying, Dad, some guys, they just go in and they support their guy, right? And this is your list. Last week we did 27 and 28. Now we're on number 29. Who is the best player to wear that number?
Well, I strongly consider John Smoltz, in part because the green room, Jeff, in Atlanta for the All-Star game was called the Smoltz Room. So the green room that we operated out of was called the Smoltz Room. It was right next to the Maddox Room and the Glavine Room and the Chipper Jones Room. So John Smoltz was right across the hall, and he walked into our room and said, I've never been in the Smoltz Room before. And he looked around, he laughed, and he said, I've done the square footage. It is bigger than the Chipper Room, the Glavine Room, or the Maddox Room. So I asked Chipper this. I told him this on the air. I said, I said the observation made by John Smoltz. And of course, Chipper laughed out loud. And he said, of course, only Smoltzy would think that way. And he said, I'm pretty sure he actually did the square footage to make sure that his room was bigger. That's how competitive. That's how competitive John Smoltz was. So number 29 is not John Smoltz, even though he's a very close second. I have to go with Rod Carew. Of course, first ballot Hall of Famer. One of the great hitters that I've ever seen, and I grew up watching him play. 328 lifetime average, 18 All-Star games, 7 batting titles. 1977, he won the MVP that year. He hit 388 with an OPS of 1.019. He was amazing. And Jeff, that year he got 239 hits, and scored 128 runs. But Jeff, when people ask me all these bizarre questions, he's the best bunter that I've ever seen. Juan Pierre was good. Brett Butler was good. Rod Carew was the best bunter I've ever seen. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and he said that Rod Carew occasionally, more than occasionally, would draw a circle on the field during early batting practice, and he would bunt 100 straight balls and make sure they all ended up in the circle. That's how skilled he was at pushing a bunt down the third base line or dragging a bunt down the first base line. He could bunt. He said he could bunt like 100 straight balls into a circle. Bunting is a lost art, not on Rod Carew. That's one reason why, for me only, he's the greatest number 29 ever.
That sounds like something a golfer would do. That kind of exercise, right?
Jeff, there's so many similarities between golf and baseball. It's incredible. By the way, I asked Chipper Jones, who's been big part of yesterday and today's podcast, I say, how much golf do you play? He goes, I play 27 holes every Tuesday and every Thursday without fail. So he says, I tell everyone that I know, my agent who needs me for stuff, whatever, I'm not available on Tuesday and Thursday. If you need me to do anything, I'm available Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But Tuesday and Thursday, I play 54 holes each day. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, the time I spend editing and putting together this podcast is the same amount of time he spends weekly playing golf.
Jeff,
when my friends asked, do you ever get out there? I said, not with 3 episodes a week on Is This a Great Game or What?
Jeff, we're going to get you some help. We just have to make some money. We don't make any money doing the show. We're doing this by ourselves. We're just doing it for you.
It's a great time to say, if anybody is looking to be involved with endorsing or sponsoring Is This a Great Game or What, reach out. Jeff at greatgameorwhat.com. Rates start at just $1. All right, here we go. Are we going to move on to 30? Are you doing 2 today?
No, we're going to do 30 next week. 30 is difficult, and I'm going to just try one at a time here, okay?
All right, so number 30 will be next week. Dad, just out of curiosity, have you timed this out? Because it's Ozzy to Oral 1 to 55. Are you timing this out to try to get us to basically the playoffs by 55?
We'll get to 55. Trust me.
I'm saying we're ahead of pace. We're at the All-Star break and we're already at 30. So
but we're gonna slow down, say, when we get to number 44, because number 44 is Hank Aaron, and we will talk greatly about Hank Aaron, as we will today, because Jeff, he is our best of all. Tim, we have picked the best player from each franchise. We're up to number 18, and Hank Aaron obviously is the greatest Brave ever. And at the All-Star game, Jeff, they did a tribute to Hank Aaron. Did you see it?
Dad, it was so incredible. The internet was just in awe about it all. And I mean, it was so beautiful. On 7/15, July 15th, honoring home run 715, we had Tom House on the podcast earlier this year on the anniversary of the day that 715 was hit. And he was the one who caught the ball. If you listen to the episode, if you didn't, you got to go back and listen to it, because he ran the ball into Hank, his teammate. Anyway, Dad, it was so spectacular and so beautiful. What was it like in person? Was it equally as cool?
It was so powerful. It was so beautifully done. Whoever put that together deserves an Emmy or an Oscar or something, because that was beautiful. And, we were talking about the biggest home runs in baseball history, Jeff. I think that has the distinction of the most important home run in baseball history. Does that make sense? Different than, say, Mazeroski's, which won the 1960 World Series. I think you can make that the biggest home run in Major League history. But the most important one was when Hank Aaron passed Babe Ruth on the all-time list. Does that make sense?
I think it makes sense, Dad. And Tom House went into this on the episode, but it bears repeating. Also, to think about what the country was going through at that time, and how so many did not like the thought of a black man being the home run leader of all time, and how culturally that was difficult for the country, for people who didn't see that as something that could happen, when it was breaking down barriers as it should. I mean, it's similar to that in a different way to Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier, right, Dad? This is the important, monumental things that happen in our game.
Right. It was amazing. And I've told you this story before, Jeff, but here's how revered Hank Aaron was from everyone in the game. Aaron Boone, who grew up in baseball, grew up on a baseball field, was at the ballpark with his dad when he was 3 years old. And Booney can talk to anybody about anything. 2014 All-Star game. We're in Minneapolis. He's working for ESPN. He gets off the elevator and he sees me, and his face is like ashen. He said, guess who I just saw in the elevator? I said, who? He said, Hank Aaron. I said, wow. What did you say to him? He said, I didn't know what to say. I was speechless. I couldn't even speak. I said, what? You could talk to anyone. He goes, but that was Hank Aaron. That's how revered Hank Aaron was in Aaron Boone's mind. And I've told you my story, Jeff, but the highlight of my career was interviewing Hank Aaron for 4 innings during a baseball game 7 or 8 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it was, with Dave Fleming and Eduardo Perez. So I sat next to Hank Aaron for 4 innings, an hour and a half, next to one of the greatest players of all time and one of the greatest people we'll ever see. He was so funny. He was so charming. His recall was unbelievable. Jeff, I stopped keeping score of a major league game because I was mesmerized by the man sitting to my left. So after the game was over, okay, I looked at Twitter. Never a good idea to look at Twitter after you've called a major league game. Trust me. Some guy wrote in and he said, if anyone ever looks at you the way that Tim Kurkjian looked at Hank Aaron tonight, you should marry that person. That's how magical it was being in the booth that night with Eduardo Perez and Dave Fleming. And they say the same thing, that was one of the highlights of their entire career, was getting to sit next to Hank Aaron and have him tell us stories of his life. It was absolutely tremendous. So that is the best of all, Tim. Perfect time to do it because Hank Aaron was all over Atlanta during the All-Star game, as he should have been, the greatest Brave of all time.
Dad, you mentioned keeping score during the game. That's something that you taught me to do. And do you know, my 2 favorite keeping score during the game stories was when I was a kid. I tried to take score during the 2002 All-Star game, my first ever All-Star game, trying to keep score during, which I do not recommend for a 9-year-old at the time, because even if the game isn't in extra innings and doesn't even end up finishing with a final score, the amount of substitutions, you're going to run out of room on your scorecard. It was so difficult. And then my other favorite keeping score story is, you remember, I took my high school girlfriend to a Nationals game. And as I was getting ready to leave, I was getting my scorebook to take with me. And you looked at me with such disappointment, thinking I have raised an equally nerdy kid. Jeff, you can't go keep score when you bring a girl to a baseball game. You have to pay attention to her.
Jeff, and normally I would do that from experience, but I don't think I ever took a girl to a baseball game, because I don't think I took a girl anywhere until I met your mother. I mean, it's terrible. Yes, you should not, if you don't know what you're doing and that the girl's not that interested, maybe you shouldn't bring your scorebook. So,
all right,
boy.
Dad, for wrapping up today's episode, you have a special team, Tim. And I think this is probably one of the most creative you've ever come up with. And I would like to introduce it because my little Kurkjian of the day, which of course everybody knows at this point, is Cal Raleigh is the first catcher ever to win the Homerun Derby. And then I realized he's the last position to win it. So now we have a player at every position who has won the Homerun Derby, and the catcher was the last one we were waiting for. Obviously, besides pitcher, technically. So.
Right. So I told Cal Raleigh that after the game on the radio. I said, "You're the first catcher ever to win the Homerun Derby." And Jeff, his eyes lit up like he needs something else to be excited about. He goes, "Wow, I had no idea about that." So he was thrilled. Yes. So Cal Raleigh obviously is the catcher, and you could go a million different ways at all these positions, but I'm going with Pete Alonso at first base because he won it twice in 2019 and 2021, and he loved the Homerun Derby. He loved competing in it as much as anyone I've ever seen. Ryan Sandberg won. He's our second baseman. He won the Homerun Derby in 1990 in his home ballpark at Wrigley Field. That's
cool.
Of course, that made it even better. Our third baseman is Todd Frazier, of course, who won in 2015 in his home ballpark. And Jeff, that was the first year that they used the clock in the Homerun Derby. And his brother was pitching to him. I repeat, relationship Homerun derbies are the best. And because the clock was ticking, I'll never forget, Todd Frazier was screaming at his brother, throw it faster, meaning not harder, just throw it more often because
more
we're
consistently
running out of time. I still think because the clock saved the Homerun Derby, I think that was the best one I've ever seen in one way because Todd Frazier did it. He did it at home, and his brother was pitching to him. I just loved it.
Spectacular.
Cal Ripken in 1991, one of his 2 MVP seasons, he won the Home Run Derby in Toronto that night. That was pretty cool. Ken Griffey Jr. is one of the outfielders because he's the only one to win it 3 times, 1994, 1998, and 1999. Ken Griffey Jr. just barged onto the set of Baseball Tonight the other night. He wasn't even invited, but he was just standing there. So Kevin Connors had to say, "You want to come on?" So we brought Ken Griffey Jr. into the show. It was just priceless. It was so, so good. Outfielder, I'm also going Josh Hamilton, even though he never won a home run derby. The show that he put on that day at the old Yankee Stadium was like nothing anyone had ever seen. It might be the greatest round of home runs that anyone has ever seen. Josh Hamilton was an amazing athlete with incredible power. They used to say, Jeff, the sound off his bat, you could hear it 3 fields away in spring training. People would go like this, "Oh, Josh is taking BP over there," like 300 feet away. You could hear it. That's how great Josh Hamilton was. And of course, Bryce Harper in 2018 won the Home Run Derby against his father was the pitcher, and he did it in his home ballpark in Washington. You went to that, right?
Yeah, that was incredible. I love the home ballpark stories. It makes it all the better.
Right. The only thing better than him winning the Home Run Derby was me playing in the celebrity softball game with
Jamie Foxx.
Right.
You and Jamie Foxx.
And Bill Nye, the science guy, who I repeat, got the biggest ovation of anyone at the celebrity softball game in 2018. So, Jeff, we don't have a pitcher, but we're going to use a pitcher for the Home Run Derby, and we're going to use Rich Donley because in one of the earliest home run derbies, before we really polished it to make it better, Rich Donley was the batting practice pitcher for everyone in the derby. So he threw to everyone. You didn't bring your own guy. Rich Donley was your guy. And you see, Jeff, with the L screen, how everyone throws from the front of the mound now. They're like in front of the dirt. They can throw really hard from there and throw strikes. Rich Donley threw from the top of the mound, right on top of the rubber, like a real pitcher would, for the entire home run derby. And he pitched to everyone. Isn't that incredible?
So I mean, no pitch count there. You're not pulling him after 99 pitches,
no,
right?
Jeff, and this is the point. Just like Cal Raleigh's dad, Todd told me that he's in his mid-50s. He throws batting practice 11 months out of the year. And you can train your arm to do that if you just keep throwing. And that's what Rich Donley did for his entire career as a coach and an instructor in the major leagues. And Rich once told me, by the way, a couple years ago, he threw a 12-minute batting practice session. And at the end of the 12 minutes, there wasn't one ball left in the cage. Now, Jeff, what does that tell you? 12 minutes, no balls left in the cage. What does that tell you, first off?
No one's taking any pitches.
Right, because they're
all perfect strikes.
That's the goal of a batting practice pitcher, is to throw strikes. And because he throws such good strikes, everyone hit it out of the cage, meaning no one popped it up into the cage and it landed. 12 minutes, no balls in the cage. That has to be a record.
Well, Dad, this is a great transition to tease who we have joining the show next week, because next weekend will be Hall of Fame induction weekend in Cooperstown, a very exciting time. And Billy Wagner, who is set to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in the class of 2025, will join as our guest, Dad. And you bringing up Todd Raleigh made me think about Billy Wagner throwing, because he's a coach now. He is and he throws left and right-handed batting practice because he can do that.
Right. Please tune in and listen to Billy Wagner tell the story. We're not going to give it away this time like I always do. We're not. The time that Kenny Rogers, fellow left-handed pitcher and a really good one in the major leagues, challenged Billy Wagner to an event during batting practice. Just tune in to listen to that. That's another story that I had never heard before. I thought I knew all the Billy Wagner stories. I'd never heard that, and it made you and I laugh out loud.
Make sure to tune in for that. That'll be this coming Wednesday here on Is This a Great Game or What? Thank you so much for watching on YouTube or listening wherever you listen. Make sure to follow, subscribe, share it with somebody, spread the love of baseball with somebody who loves this game as much as we do. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, thanks for being a part of our family.